Please use your vote to correct this wrong. Thank you.
That camera also captured this.
Please be respectful of the speakers, sir.
Imagine for a moment that you're a regular, ordinary parent who has a child that attends Denver City public schools. During the course of your day-to-day life, suddenly news ends up breaking that shows that the school system has actually been working to actively suppress problems related to a new disciplinary policy that they implemented in the name of racial equity, even though all of the staffers, including multiple principals, acknowledge that this has caused danger and violence to ramp up in the very schools that your kids go to. And one of the principals that was the tip of the spear on revealing this ridiculous policy was actually fired as a consequence of him blowing the whistle on this, was actually fired for revealing to the public the truth about what was happening at your very school. So you decide for the first time ever, you're going to go speak at one of these school board meetings. You've never done anything like this before. You're not a political activist or anything of the sort. And you come up and you say basic things like this woman said in the open, which is, hey, you guys got to reverse this decision. All this person did was tell the truth. And then you ask somebody who is heckling you to remain respectful based on the fact that he's interrupting everyone that disagrees with his paid political position. Well, it turns out you thought everything was fine. You were hoping for a good result, maybe a reversal on this particular issue, but then the police come knocking on your door, and all of a sudden you are greeted with criminal charges because that very same man, that very same political activist, told the police that you actually physically assaulted him, called him the N-word, and you caused him immense physical and emotional pain, and now you're facing assault charges. Now, you know in your heart of hearts this never happened. You know this is ridiculous, but the school board and everyone involved in this fraud, in this scam, ends up taking his side, paints you publicly as a racist, and your life ends up being on the chopping block because you tried to defend a principal who did the right thing. Well, unfortunately, that is the story of Kristen Fry, somebody who is facing immense harassment, backlash, and whatnot from the school board and one of their paid consultants, and that's what we're going to talk about today. This hoax being exposed and the lawsuit that followed this. But before we get into that, I want to thank today's video sponsor, Incogni, for supporting this video. Have you ever heard the phrase, if something is free, you're the product? Well, I think that phrase is a bit outdated because, spoiler alert, you are always the product. There are hundreds, if not thousands of companies right now trafficking in your personal private data. Every time you enter your information on an online order or on any kind of website, this information is collected, packaged, and resold, and it can lead to devastating and annoying consequences, like enabling stalkers to find you in all different locations that you've ever been in, and of course, annoying spam phone calls and annoying spam emails. But the thing is, these sites are actually obligated to take down your personal information if you request them, but because there are thousands of them, this is a long and tedious process, or at least it was a long and tedious process before today's sponsor, Incogni. Incogni is a wonderful tool that you can utilize to send those requests on your behalf in order to remove your private personal information from all of these online data brokers. And if you look at my Incogni page, what you'll find out is that they have requested removal from nearly 600 different data broker websites at a time scale that would have taken me personally about 375 hours. And Incogni is actually offering a wonderful new feature where you could do a custom removal. Let's say one of these websites with your personal information is not on one of Incogni's pre-existing lists. You can actually drop the hyperlink in there yourself and get that taken down on your own with this wonderful tool. And the great thing about Incogni is it offers a wonderful range of plans. I personally use the Family Unlimited plan because it's not just about me, it's about protecting my loved ones. And one of the most amazing things about Incogni is that they're offering you guys out there in my audience a wonderful 60% off any subscription if you go to incogni.com/AJW and use promo code AJW. So go to incogni.com/AJW, and not only can you protect your personal data, but you could protect your loved one's personal data for a low cost. That's also 60% off. That's incogni.com/AJW. Secure your data today.
A woman accused of assaulting a man and using the N-word at a school board meeting has now filed a federal defamation lawsuit, and that suit names Denver Public Schools, 4 current and former board members, as well as 2 others.
It alleges that she was falsely accused of putting her hands on a man and using the racial epithet.
So first of all, it's incredibly important for us to acknowledge that this particular local news reporter just said epithet instead of epithet, but also the incredibly suspicious nature of the claims that were brought forward regarding what went down at this particular school board meeting. Because again, you guys can see based on the clip that I showed you, this still frame right here, the idea that this woman in this crowded area would be able to be dropping N-bombs without anybody detecting it in the moment is a little bit questionable and a little bit suspicious. In addition to that, the man who made these claims, the man who actually filed this police report alleging this assault that nobody saw, ended up being a guy who was working to preserve the very same disciplinary policy that was exposed by the principal. He was a paid activist, a paid racial activist that sees evil white racism under every rock, and yet we are told that of all the people in this entire room, of all the people who were not white that were present at this school board meeting, the one person that coincidentally was targeted with a racial epithet was a guy who is clownishly dressed in African garb at this local school board meeting.
Is there proof of what actually happened and what she said happened?
Kim and Tom, there's no audio of what was actually said, but video that surfaced months later led to the dismissal of criminal charges in the case.
Hi, my name is Kristen Fry.
A camera captured this Denver Public Schools board meeting in August 2023, and Kristen Fry's support of a principal about to be fired.
Please use your vote to correct this wrong. Thank you.
That camera also captured this.
Please be respectful of the speakers, sir.
4 days later, the man not seen in that video, Hashim Coates, told Denver police that before stepping to the microphone, Fry assaulted him, grabbing his shoulder and calling him the N-word.
Now, in addition to the fact that it is incredibly rare for us to hear about an assault between a white woman and a black male, where the white woman is the unprovoked assaulter, the fact that this was reported 4 days later, 4 days after this incident allegedly occurred, is also incredibly suspicious. But make no mistake about it, that is his own written statement claiming a physical assault that caused him great immense physical pain, along with calling him the dumb N-word that he is attesting to in a police report. And of course, the charges have been dropped. And one of the reasons why the charges were dropped is because even though he was off camera in terms of the school board meeting that was actually taking place, that didn't mean that there were no surveillance cameras present in this particular room. And even though there's no audio, even though we can't confirm that she didn't call him the N-word, what we do know from the surveillance videos is that in no way, shape, or form was this man physically assaulted by this woman, which, by the way, I could have told you was incredibly unlikely to have occurred in a crowded room, only to be discovered by the supposed victim 4 days later, because obviously the size disparity, the statistical likelihood of a white woman assaulting a black man, the fact that this guy is also a racial justice advocate that happens to be on the opposite side politically, that happens to be paid in order to push this program, all led us to believe, or should have led us to believe at the time, that this was highly unlikely. But again, this was allowed to just go on. This woman was allowed to be defamed for months as this case progressed, which was a criminal case against her based on what appears to be a fraudulent police report. Like, maybe the guy's insane. Maybe he didn't realize that this didn't happen. He just imagined it and thought it was real in the 4 days that this event occurred and when he decided to go to the police. But it turns out, in addition to the surveillance cameras showing us unambiguously that there was absolutely no physical assault, we have 2 witnesses that were sitting nearby that said that they heard no such racial epithet being uttered, which, by the way, makes a lot of sense, because it's not like in your average everyday school board meeting you hear the N-word and you don't have a reaction. You don't think that this is way off and way unusual to occur at this moment in time, but apparently even the alleged victim in this particular case, he just heard it 4 days later. 4 days later, this came to his mind because this was a losing issue for him and his paycheck was at stake. So he decided to try to ruin a woman's life in order to keep this dumbass program in Denver public schools. But of course, it's not just him that is at fault in this particular case. Sure, he filed what appears to be a fraudulent police report. Again, I leave room because it's alleged and he might be insane, so he might not have had the intent to actually lie, even though I believe he 100% did. But the school board also backed him up. Even though this is a preposterous scenario, the same school board that was participating in the cover-up by firing the principal decided that they were going to throw this parent under the bus because she spoke out against them at this school board meeting.
And it is never okay, never, for a white person to walk up to a black person and use that racial slur, ever.
Days later, Fry asserts that school board members, including Sochi Gaitan and Superintendent Alex Marrero, gave the allegation credence.
Some of us at the dais observed some of that in terms of the physical.
Fry found herself charged with disturbing the peace and harassment.
Now, for my podcast listeners, you can actually see in this police report a handwritten statement, a handwritten account of events that starts off with this man alleging that he was assaulted. On 8/21, I was assaulted while attending a DPS board meeting. I was seated watching and listening, not listening, to the meeting. I turned to comment about something. While in conversation, I feel pressure on my left shoulder. I immediately turn to see who is touch me in such a way. I saw that it was Kristen Fry, who I had other encounters with at DPS related events. She then states, "You dumb N-word." In shock, I ask her, "Did you call me the N-word?" Now, I want to point out, just for everybody, that this is written absolutely horribly by a person who is paid by the school to consult on discipline, but he's clearly not educated in the basic forms of writing. And in addition to that, the school did not just release a statement about not saying the N-word, they actively blocked 4 or 5 months the surveillance video that they knew was exonerating for Kristen Fry in order to buttress this particular story. So this woman had to suffer harassment from these people, from the community, from this activist for 5 months while the school dodged subpoenas in order to suppress evidence of her innocence. So yeah, right here you have the school board basically going along with this lie. Again, this lie that cropped up out of nowhere 4 days later, because of course it takes the heat off of them and what they did, the cover-up that they participated in, which by the way was rather extensive. When you go and look up this principal survey where all these different teachers and principals got together in order to expose this program, what you ultimately end up finding out is that after this information was leaked to the CBS affiliate over in Denver, they ended up putting in a Freedom of Information Act request. It turns out that the school board actually lied. They broke the law, refusing to reveal this information to the public, refusing to release this document for 2 whole months because they knew how bad it was. And obviously, when people found out that not only did they participate in a cover-up, not only did they institute this racial justice disciplinary program that made the schools even more dangerous, but then in addition to that, they fired one of the whistleblowers, they were angry. So they needed something to get the heat off of them. And of course, Hashim Coates needed some way to guarantee his paycheck, because if you don't have a stupid ass disciplinary policy that says that all white people are evil, white, and racist, and you need to basically give blacks a break for criminality that goes on in the public schools, this guy is not going to get paid anymore. This guy is going to lose his meal ticket, and based on the size of him, he absolutely loves each and every meal that he has. So of course, we have the surveillance video right here. And again, her version of events, which by the way makes all the sense in the world, was that she said, "Hey, stop heckling the speakers," which by the way, he can be heard heckling the speakers throughout the course of the school board meeting, that's what she told him before she went up to the mic. She's like, "Hey, cut it out. You're being rude. Let's act like we're in a civilized society." And this guy was like, "Civilized? How dare you, you evil white racist? Shut up, Karen. I'm going to go out of my way to ruin your life."
Then video surfaced from another part of the room. That's Fry waiting to speak, at a time when she alleges that Coates was bullying others at the microphone.
I felt the need to say something to prevent that from happening to me. So I leaned forward. I said, "Please be respectful of the speakers." That is all I said. I did not touch him at all, never at any moment.
Again, there's the surveillance video. There is, in fact, her explanation. And as you can see from the surveillance video, this woman did not physically assault him. She did not cause him immense physical pain. And by the way, this black activist who sees racism under every rock did not react in a way that you would expect him to react if somebody said, "Shut up, you dumb N-word," like he eventually ended up saying later on in his police report. So obviously, this woman is in the right, in my opinion. Now, of course, we have to wait for the results of this federal lawsuit. I don't understand why we're not getting a wrongful police report charge right here. He alleged a physical assault. He alleged that this woman grabbed at him, came at him. She just went crazy. She just got all her Karenicity in a bunch and ended up attacking him for no reason other than her evil white racism. And yet we don't see charges against him. And yet we don't see consequences for him. And yet we don't see anything really other than this lawsuit, some financial gains possibly for this woman, which would be well deserved, because in reality, they already accomplished their goal at the time that they perpetuated this hoax.
And now Fry has filed a federal defamation suit. It names Denver Public Schools, 3 current school board members, 1 former board member, Coates, and a political ally at the meeting with him.
And it is unfortunate there's no audio, but I would ask anyone with common sense to question why I would ever say that word. What happened to me is political bullying and lawfare.
So look, the woman ends up appealing to logic, but the fact is nobody at the Denver Public School Board meeting that participated in this hoax is actually interested in any kind of logic. And again, they show us the video right here. This woman was holding her hands like this, by the way, low, had no way of touching him. It could not be more clear, but she says, "Why would I utter that word at this man at that moment in time?" That's completely illogical. But the thing is, these people were gaming the system. They were playing up the race hysteria because they knew the thing that got them paid was at risk. The Denver School Board knew 100% that they were going to face a lot of consequences. So what they did was create another controversy, target this woman, ironically, for harassment, even though she was charged for harassment. And then, of course, they proceeded to take it steps further by filing restraining orders against her to prevent her from daring speaking up at these public school board meetings for fear of arrest. Because make no mistake about it, she was banned from speaking at these meetings. That this open forum that parents and the public are allowed to be at, she was completely restricted from it due to the fact that this hoax was perpetuated against her. And again, they just wanted her to live with that. They just wanted her to deal with that. They wanted her to plead guilty or get convicted of harassment and these charges that they filed against her, knowing full well, based on the surveillance video and based on basic logic, that this was absolutely ridiculous. Again, what are the odds that the woke black activist, the person advocating for these programs that shows up in African garb, gets called the N-word by a random white woman who's not politically engaged, not politically activated, and decided to speak up just on behalf of the principal who is being wrongfully targeted by this very same group?
A Denver Public Schools spokesman declined to comment, and an attorney representing the district and the current and former board members did not respond to a message from 9 News Investigates.
So look, we expect the no comments from the school board. We expect the no comments from the lawyers representing them. It is an ongoing case at the time of this particular segment. But guess what? Coates decided that he was going to release a little bit something extra on top of his denial of these allegations, or allegations, as he would say.
People out there are judging off of hearsay, false allegations, and not facts.
And it just goes to show you the absolute absurdity of these individuals.
In a statement, Coates said he rejects the allegations in the lawsuit, which he termed a calculated misuse of the courts aimed at punishing those who acted responsibly.
So of course, Coates, the architect of this particular hoax, calls this a misuse of the courts, a misuse of the legal system, legal intimidation, which is honestly shameful in his opinion. And again, this is the same guy who put pen to paper and said that he was physically assaulted by this woman, that she touched him, when the video shows unambiguously that that's 100% false. And by the way, I believe his account that he was called the N-word and then heard it 4 days later is also nonsense. But this guy has the audacity, after framing this woman, after trying to ruin her life, after putting criminal charges on her, to talk about somebody misusing the court system. Again, shame on you. Maybe this is why he he advocates for a soft on black crime policy in the Denver public schools, because he knows himself that he can't control his own behavior, he can't control his lies, so he wants no accountability for him, just like he wants for these black kids, because he sees himself not as an agent, but as an innocent Baba Angel Aladdin who didn't do nothing wrong, who's just trying to feed his starving family by perpetuating this awful system on our public schools across the country based on the George Floyd effect. But reality should check him. Reality should humble him, and he should pay through the nose for these lies. He should be deposed, humiliated, made to walk through the streets with somebody ringing a bell behind him saying shame, a la Game of Thrones. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think about all this down in the comments below. Is this woman just guilty because she's a white woman and she should never speak up against a policy advocated by a supposedly strong black man? Or is this yet another hoax in the books, an absolutely shameful one, and Denver should be obligated to pay her to the tune of millions of dollars? Again, all your thoughts down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on all my social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about a black activist framing an innocent woman. Till next time.